Her.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As we said, my name is Lynnwood, and I'm the ag agent in DeKalb County. Before Louise and I, we served in Fulton County together. I'm going on 18 years of experience here in extension, and it has been great. Sometimes you want to choke some people, but that's what it is. That's the job. Now, I'm different in terms of speakers, especially when it comes to the Master Gardeners, because you all are the lifelines of the team. So first, let me say thank you all for being that volunteer to help us extend our information throughout Foresight and abroad. So it's not, don't take it personally. I'm gonna say that, don't take this personally, but I am about business. Because when we start talking about turf in the metro area, this is our number one call. You tell somebody the wrong thing, we're accountable. So we want to make sure we get this right, not to scare you, but let's make sure we give the right information, the best information. So, but research-based information. So that's how I'm gonna start that off, but I'm gonna say welcome. All right, by show of hands, how many of you like turf? And be honest, be honest. Yes. And that's great, I just need you to be honest. I have one, like turf, yes. 1, 2, okay. If you don't.
Put it this way, do we like it and enjoy it, or do we like working?
Whatever you like. Whatever you like. I just want to know how many like turf grass.
Better than the alternative.
You like it better than the alternative. Now, my job today is not to make you like it, love it, but respect it. Because a lot of times, what it provides in the landscape is very beneficial for the purpose of other individuals outside of yourself. You die to yourself when you give information as a master gardener. Nothing comes from your gift or your personal preference. They're the boss. We're just trying to help them get to where they want to go. They'll ask you, well, what do you think? Remember, unbiased. We have master gardeners say, you know, I don't like turf. Why don't you go to moss? And that's not what they want to do. Hey, we have our personal, people get into the organics and all of that stuff. That's not what we're here for. If they ask us those questions, then yeah, feel free. But just understand, we're always unbiased. So in talking about being unbiased, man, I hope I can get out the way. Let's understand the objectives of today's presentation. We're gonna let go to sleep. Was that the last one?
No, that's because of that.
So which one is better? This? That's good? That's good? All right, so our objectives of today is understanding the basic functions of turf grass, knowing the names and characteristics when it's cool or warm season, know how to select the best turf or site. A lot of times people don't understand that. Know the basic establishment procedures for turf grass, understand the basic of turf grass fertilization, and just be familiar with maintenance practices of turf grass. There are grasses for people who don't want to do anything to it. We have a grass. So, but we have to understand that maintenance practice. So, when we start talking about the purpose of a lawn, I can tell you right now, I can go through reduce dust, noise, heat, prevent oil erosion in terms of adding the percent value to the home value percentage and increase the that, go down to absorb dust, air pollutants. Nobody cares. When people start talking about why they want turf, it's going to be right here to provide recreation area. That's it. Now we understand why turf was created. It was for to prevent erosion. But from a homeowner standpoint, they're looking at recreation. That's what they're looking at. And when you start talking about a yard, I always tell people, and how I'm talking to you is how you should be talking to your clients in Foresight. When you start talking about having a well-made, established lawn, it's going to take some time, it's going to take effort, It's going to take money, blood, sweat, and tears. Depending on the type of grass. But I tell you this, the last one you need to understand when it comes to turf grass and anything in the landscape, if you didn't plan first, you already failed. One thing I would never want a client to do is purchase 10 pallets of sod, and it's the wrong sod for the site. They have a site that requires they have a site that only gets 5 hours of sunlight to purchase the grass that requires 8. It'll be there within 2 years. That's where we come in. All right? So understanding that. So when we start talking about turf grass selection, this is what we usually talk about to the client. People are going to talk about environmental conditions. Yeah, they will talk about that. We'll get into some of those things. But mostly people are going to talk about turf quality, and they're going to talk about maintenance requirements. How often do I have to cut? How often do I have to fertilize? I want something that looks like a carpet. Everybody wants that nice, tight, plush grass, but don't want to put in the work. But this is what they're going to do in terms of, this is what we are when we start talking about turf grass selection. You will do CSI in evaluating their site. People will lie to you. Oh yeah, I get 10 hours of sunlight. Barely get 4. They will. When people want something, they want it. But we just got to make sure we document what it is we get. Not to scare you. All right, so when we start talking about environmental conditions, there's only certain things we can actually take into consideration. We know we're going to always deal with the temperature here in Georgia. Moisture, that's based on what you're willing to water. Now, and then what Mother Nature's plan on giving us. When we start talking about shade, adaptation, we're talking about whether it's structural shade from a building or is it some type of trees or shrubs that are shaded. Sometimes with trees and shrubs, we can modify that. But when you start talking about structural shading, we're not taking down buildings. You know, people got to think of the, and a lot of people do not catalog thinking about the north, south, east, and west, how the sun comes over, when it's in between the house is shaded in that area, how long. It's those things we need to know when asking them to catalog. Of course, we're always going to tell them, have you taken the soil test recently? We need to know the pH. We need to know the soil fertility so that we can understand what we're working with before we can even offer you a grass that's suitable for your landscape. So that's how this is going to go. Now, density and texture. When you start talking about density, we're talking about grass blades or shoots per area. When you start talking about texture, that's just basically talking about from narrow to wide. How wide you want the blade, how narrow you want the blade. These are some of the things I will ask the homeowner. When the homeowner says, you know what, I'm looking for a grass to grow on my landscape, but I don't know which one to go with. Then the first thing I would say is you want it to be green year round. People are like, man, you know what? That might be a great option. Then you have to get into the best view and what it's all about. Then I say, are you looking for something that goes dormant, that has real tight canopy, almost look like a carpet? That looks nice too. Okay. So you don't care, you want it to be green year round, but we know that the carpet grasses are not green year round, so we have to come to a consistency of where we're going with this. From there, I go into the thing of this. What's most important to you? Something that's low maintenance or something that you got to constantly replace every year? Maybe like, well, my pockets are more important to me. That's a great answer. So now that keeps me away from fescue, because if you're not willing to water fescue during the summer months, it tends to thin out. And we'll talk about that later. So I'll be like, okay, here are our warm season grasses. You have rue, you have zoysia, you have centipede, St. Augustine. Those are the 4 that's available for you. Well, what's the difference? Then we're going, I'm telling you, it's like, it can be a 30-minute conversation for someone who really don't have an idea what it is they want to go with the turf grass. If you find yourself in the pickle, that's what Evan and Louise are here for. But usually, I always tell people you want narrow blades or wide blades. If they say wild blades, oh man, that's great. Sometimes you can jump out of certain areas because a wider blade grasses only come in certain type of cultures. The wider the blade, that's going to be St. Augustine for warm season. There are some medium blade zoysias, but when we start talking about real wide blades, that's St. Augustine all the way. Now, if they start talking about narrow blades, Bermuda's a zoysia, because all of them can be anywhere from medium to narrow. So that's what we're talking about. So when we start talking about low density, coarse texture, so we're talking about a tall fescue. The lower the density, the more open you're going to have within the canopy of that grass. You can almost see the soil surface sometimes when you have low density type grasses. Have you all had weeds yet? All right, so did they tell you why weeds germinate? The biggest reason? Really the main reason? Voids. Especially in a turf situation. If you have a lot of voids, pockets, where sunlight comes in contact with the soil surface, you're going to get more weed seeds germinating. That's why people tend to go to the warm season grasses, because it's supposed to overlap with the growth structures to keep that from happening. So low density, coarse texture, that's fescue, because that's a wide blade. High density, fine texture can be a hybrid Bermuda or even a zoysia. I don't put centipede in a high density, fine texture because it has a medium width blade. And you can, just depend, you can get some voids in there where sunlight can't come in contact with the surface. So, some growth patterns. The first one is going to be below ground runners, which are rhizomes, which will be in your Bermuda, your Georgia, and your Kentucky bluegrass. Don't worry, we don't even tell people about Kentucky bluegrass here. It just doesn't work. Stolons are your above ground runners. This can also be Bermuda, it can be Georgia, it can also be centipede and St. Augustine. That's your above ground runners. That's how these grasses are able to fill in those bald spots in and throughout the landscape with those either underneath or above. And for Bermuda and Georgia, they both have above and below. And you wonder why Bermuda is so persistent. That's the reason why. Then you have this one source we call a bunch type. It comes from one source. Once that seed germinates, it comes from that embryo. You have one stalk. If that stalk is damaged, it does not regenerate. It cannot spread because it does not have the rhizomes nor the stolons. Okay? So that's where your fescue falls into play, your ryegrass, things like that. All right, so grasses are broken down to two categories. You're going to either have a cool season, and that's usually what you'll see now, or you're going to have a warm season. Warm season are those grasses that love temperature in that 80 to 90 range. Cool seasons love that temperature between 60 to 75. Now, the cool seasons that you see here, you have tall fescue. As I say, Kentucky bluegrass really don't do well here, but you still see it out there on the market. Annual and perennial rye. Now, annual and perennial rye are temporary grasses. People will still treat it like a fescue. More perennial than annual. The thing is, it's going to be a little more susceptible to heat than tall fescue is. So when fescue, when we get around May, June, July, or what we say, June, July, August, this grass will stress out even more. If you're not giving it water and things like that, hey, this will thin out and it'll probably disappear. Now, when we start talking about warm season grasses, I know you see 6 here, but the 4 we deal with are Bermuda, centipede, zoysia, St. Augustine. Carpet grass and Bahia grass, they can be used with DOT on the roadside, but they can also be used in golf rings, along with dead grass. But you'll see that as the rough. So that's what that is used for. So if someone said, I want a warm season grass, usually you're going to talk about Bermuda, centipede, zoysia, and St. Augustine. That is our 4 options here in the Piedmont area. When we start talking about cool season, let's just stick with fescue. Those are your 5 grasses that you should be recommending. If they're looking for something temporary, I know sometimes let's say when the county comes in and have to fix a pipe and it's running straight through the yard, sometimes they will put down something temporary, especially during this time, until they're able to come back with something permanent. So, and if someone said, what do you recommend? Well, just do a ryegrass. Just do a ryegrass. It doesn't make sense to put fescue out there knowing that it will compete a little bit better than the ryegrass when you're favoring a warm season when it's that time, when that time comes around. All right, fescue. Here's what we're talking about. Nice wide blade. There's some modifieds in here now. This was the old traditional tall fescue. When you start talking about adapt to all of North Georgia, establish quickly, tolerate shade. Now, when we say tolerate shade, that's during the summer months. You cannot have fescue in shade during the winter months. We all know that if you're under shade, it's even colder. Degrees about 5 to 8 degrees cooler under shade, they say. So just imagine if you're in the winter and it's 20 degrees, same thing applies in the winter. So you can actually have some frost damage if that fescue is in the shade during the winter months. So when we say tolerates shade, we're talking about in the summer months. Now, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that. Needs irrigation in the summer, yes, because it's a cool season grass. Fescue actually goes dormant. Not where it's brown, where it stagnates its growth. So it's not losing a lot of moisture, but it's not putting on a lot of growth to try to overcompensate for something it's not receiving. So it can go dormant if you don't cut it. But most people are going to cut it, regardless. They're not just going to let it grow and let it just stop on its own. They're going to cut it because it's not appealing within the landscape if it's not manicured correctly. So that's what you're talking about. Now, you're talking about tends to thin out, become clumpy. That's Kentucky 31, but I'm also say that's new turf types as well. New turf types, they're better in terms of drought tolerance, disease resistance, but if you don't give it the water that's needed, it's still will thin out. You know, don't let anyone tell you anything different, regardless if it's on the band, the best drought tolerance. No, it's still gonna do what fescue does. If you don't give it the water, it will thin out. So that's all. When we get into the new turf types, yeah, they're not fine fescues and never recommend a fine fescue. That's not something we do here in Georgia. We used to do that, I would say about 8 years ago, and it never worked. For some reason, fine fescues never worked here. So we just do not recommend it. New turf types, as I said, they have a better disease resistant, drought tolerance. Now overall, it looks better. That's basically what it is. People will say, can I plant fescue now? Some people will say yes. I'm going to always say no. The reason we say that, if you're going to plant fescue now, you have to be able to give it tender loving care because the root system will not be deep enough to support it. By the time we get in May, that root system may be 2 inches deep into that soil profile. And notice I say maybe based on soil preparation. If there was no soil preparation, it may be still within that 1.5 inch of that soil profile. So we tell people, no, the best time to establish is in the fall. But if you have to, I had some guys that had to, they were working on in Buckhead where they had to do a landscape. The owners wanted turf. They wanted it to be fescue. And I said, you just have to water it. That water bill for them, because they planted over 12,000 square feet of fescue, was over $600 a month. And that's just what we're dealing with. And that's why I say it will take money in terms of dealing with turf. So it just goes from there. Yeah, question? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
When you said tolerant shade, did you say tolerant shade in the summer or winter?
The summer. The summer. Now, I'm going to give you, I have a handout for you so you'll know how many, the sunlight requirements each grass requires. So this is the old variety. This is Kentucky 31. Everybody, if if you're saying in fescue, this is what we were used to. This is what I did my research on. But now we have the new turf types. You see the difference?
Blades are better.
Blades are thinner. They did this because the wider the blade, the more moisture is lost by way of transpiration. So you make a more medium-sized blade, that's what's supposed to give it its drought tolerance, better drought tolerance. It's only because now the density has changed. Well, not the density, the texture has changed. Now it's a more narrow blade than what it was. So this is what we're talking about. It is a medium wood blade, but it is very dark in color, which is very appealing to the home. Very appealing. Same growth characteristic comes from one source. It clumps if you don't do what you're supposed to do. All right, so what causes the thin out? Well, light soil compaction and cold. Even though it's cold time, it will get some frost damage. I would tell anyone, if you have any type of grass, compaction probably is the #1 reason, outside of insect disease and shade, and why your grass is thinning out. And this is how compaction takes place. If I don't have oxygen, roots need oxygen. If there is no oxygen within that soil profile, it's going to begin, that root mass begins to decline. So that's a big issue for fescue, which is coming from one source. Once that whole root system is gone because it does not have the oxygen, that becomes a problem. Now, pests and insects, of course, if you're not willing to do anything, and you have some people say, well, you know what, I'm organic. That's cool. We can always find something, depending on the type of insect we identify, that can be organically used. But let's make sure we tell them, look, if you believe in your turf grass, you need to do something, because this situation will continue to spread. Then you won't have any grass. This isn't a grass that can bounce back. Once it's gone, it's gone. That's the problem with fescue. Once it's gone and the crown of that grass is damaged, that is it. Bermudas, Georgia, and all those warm seasons, they can bounce back, they can recover. But this one cannot. So make sure we tell them that. All right, disease, that's another one. Find a way to talk to them, because I don't know, you know any organic disease control out there? Nothing that works. That's the problem. I'll tell you, the biggest problem with fescue is us. We tend to overdo things, not doing when we're supposed to do it. And that's why I'm glad I see y'all have these green charts, because this will be your Bible. Landscapers, who people are paying thousands and thousands of dollars, still do things wrong. And then they say, well, you just don't know what they're talking about. Make sure if you're giving anyone instructions on when to do certain things, that green sheet is key and critical to passing that information on to the clients. Very key and critical. All right, so you can do insufficient irrigation, too much nitrogen, putting nitrogen out when you don't supposed to put nitrogen out. Overseeding, and guys, we do this a lot because we have so many issues with the grass. And say, you know, you're gonna work this time. I'm gonna make sure I get the grass I'm looking for. So we'll put too many seeds out, and that still becomes a problem. So this is some reasons why it tends to fail. Then you have mowing too high, mowing too low. Now, in the summer months, you need to have it high. That the higher the grass, it protects the crown. It protects the crown. But there's a catch-22 to that, because if you have a fungus or if you have insects, you have just given them more to feed them. So that's the problem. If you have this grass cut too low in the wintertime, you can get frost damage as well. Because the height, you know, if you have the recommended height, that blade can actually help insulate the roots. It can begin to act like a mulch. So that's how you have to look at that. Other grasses, you have Kentucky bluegrass. Now, you will see people, well, I won't say you don't still see people. You'll see things in the market where you see this this RTF or this mixture of Kentucky bluegrass and fescue. So what they're saying is because of one growth habit Kentucky bluegrass has. Rhizome. Any of you come up north? Y'all had Kentucky bluegrass? Anyone?
Yeah, I did.
Kentucky bluegrass works well up north, but below Tennessee, it does not do well. But the idea of what they're trying to sell is they have a mixture of fescue seeds and Kentucky bluegrass. So they're selling this. This is the pitch. So when fescue begins to thin, the Kentucky bluegrass, because it has rhizome, will run and fill in those areas. It's not going to work well here. If you told me about if we were in Tennessee, I said, okay, we can go with that, but not here. For some reason, don't know if it's the soils, I don't know, but it just does not work well here. We've had this thing on in plots for almost 8 years, and we never, ever was able to have success with it down in Griffin. So, and that's the lowest you can go with. Not Macon is the lowest you can go with fescue. No, Griffin is the lowest you can go with fescue. All right, so here's Kentucky bluegrass, and it looks great. It looks like a fescue. It's wider in blade, but it looks like a good fescue. Here's a mix. This is what it's supposed to do. You see this a lot in Kentucky. This is what it's supposed to do, but it just doesn't work. When you see this mix, and there's a discrepancy with the new turf types, the turf types are darker, so you have this light and dark type of combination throughout your grass. Some people like it, but some people don't. So we don't know where it's going to go on the market. Other cool seasons, ryegrass, perennial and year round. They're looking to use it as just a common temporary grass, just to fix, put some grass down in a bare spot. That's fine. You have some people ask you this: can I interseed ryegrass over my dormant grass? You can, but I will only do it with Bermuda. And the reason we do it with Bermuda because the Bermuda is more aggressive than the rest of the grasses. I don't recommend it because I tell you this: if you use a ryegrass, it's going to reseed. It's going to seed, especially if you get the cut. Once it reseeds and reseeds, you're going to constantly deal with that ryegrass every year. But you will have a situation, I've seen it, where the ryegrass begins to compete with the Bermuda grass. So when it's time to green up, the ryegrass will try to shadow the Bermuda grass because Bermuda needs the sunlight. It can almost stop the growth of your Bermuda grass while it's trying to come out of dormancy. So it's a catch-22. I tell people if you have to have a green, paint it. I do. Because the first thing we're going to do anyway is scalp it in March. You're going to cut that green straight off. So why not just paint it? If you have to have it green, paint it. And there's some nice landscape plants out there right now. Will look almost like, how your grass is still green. But you paint it and you go from there. That's the best option than actually telling people to go with that rye. Now, if they're persistent about it, to each his own. Yes, sir.
Well, how do these golf courses that oversee, they have Bermuda fairways and rye, which goes totally brown, and they oversee this fairway with rye. How in the world do they get the fairway decent again?
Pre-emergent?
Oh, they spraying all day. The golf industry.
They're killing the rye.
Yes.
Pre-emergence, right?
Well, no. With that kills the post emergence, and it's called post.
Okay.
It's called post.
I mean, I guess it could be necessary for erosion control in some areas.
But if you already have some already existing, those roots are there holding everything in place. Now, if it was bare, that's where the ryegrass comes into play. But if the grass is already existing, it's just dormant. Those roots are still growing. There's no need. But you're going to have clients that say, look, I got this going on in October, November. It can be a wedding. It can be a party. I want it green. Money talks. We just information. Money talks. I give them what they want, but I tell them, hey, paint it will probably be the best thing, but if you have to go with the ryegrass, make sure it's annual rye and not perennial rye. That's one thing we please tell them. Annual rye, not perennial rye. People always say, how can you identify ryegrass? I guess since I've been doing it so long, it's easy. But one way, if people want to identify ryegrass, at the bottom, where the crown is, right along here, where almost where the roots are, you'll see the new nose coming up. The sheaths are actually red. Fescue stays white. If you see red sheaths, that is ryegrass all the way. The best way to identify outside of this right here. A lot of times if people constantly cut the grass, you never get to the reproductive structure in terms of seeds. So right along where the roots are, if you pull that up and you see red sheaths going up that node, that's ryegrass. That's ryegrass all the way. There's only one other grass will give you red, and that is bahead. But bahead is a warm season grass. We're talking about cool season. So that's how you identify ryegrass. All right, so let's move on to some of your warm season. The first one up is Bermuda. This right here is typically, I'll probably say in the metro area, I'm gonna go at least 50%. 50% of homeowners in the metro area, and I know that's not, I'm gonna say at least, is Bermuda. And most likely it's gonna be common Bermuda. There are some hybrids and newer establishments. If it's an older establishment, it's gonna be common because out of all warm season grasses, common Bermuda is the cheapest. So it is the cheapest. All right? Yeah. In terms of common, it's a great pasture grass. It really is. The animals love it. But if you want this grass to look good and appealing like the hybrids, you really have to put this under some heavy fertilization. It will actually change. So if people want to go the cheaper route, but still have an attractive lawn, just let them know that if you put a little more maintenance into it with fertilizers, keeping it cut low, do not allow this to get over 2 inches, common Bermuda will look good. Not great, but it will look good. To the point people will be like, oh, what did you do to your lawn? But the amount of time, energy, and money you have to put in that, I always tell people, if you can afford it, you might as well go to high. And we'll talk about 2. All right, so when you start talking about common Bermuda, we all know it goes dormant. Common Bermuda, hybrid Bermuda. Can you really tell the difference in that? What do you see? Thicker, there it is. That's the higher density. Now, common Bermuda has a wider blade. Hybrid Bermuda blades are narrow. Okay? The only thing that I hate about common Bermuda is that it puts up a lot of seed heads. And you constantly have to mow the grass, even when the grass blades are not even hot. You're actually cutting seeds. You're cutting seeds. So when people say, I want to seed my Bermuda, the only type of Bermuda that comes in seeds are common Bermuda. There are no hybrid Bermuda seeds. All right, so we start talking about common Bermuda. It's adapted to many soils. I mean, you can go all the way south. You can come up north, especially on ball fields. It'll go dormant for them, and they're okay with that. It thrives in hot weather. It suffers in shade. We'll talk about the light requirements later. Nice, nice turf when it's fertilized and mowed correctly, like I mentioned before. I already talked to you all about the seed head, but this is the most economical, the most economically friendly grass for most homeowners. For a pallet of hybrid Bermuda, you're going to pay right now in the market right at $260. For a common Bermuda, you're probably right at, last time I did common Bermuda was which is a year ago, it was at 180. So that's the difference in terms of cost. Whenever you start talking about common Bermuda, of course, you can do it by your plugs, you can do it by some people do sprigs if you're in athletic ball fields. You can do it by seed, and then you can go solid. Hybrid Bermuda, you can only do plugs and solid. There are no seeds for that. But if someone asks you about Bermuda seeds, the newer varieties out there look better than the common Arizona Arizona common. That's what it's called. That's what most people have, Arizona common. So if you're going to go with some of the newer type seeds, if they want seeds, tell them to go with the Princess 77, the Riviera. There are several out there. There are some better seeds that will give them a better look. Here's what we're talking about with Princess 77. Dark in color, but still has a wide blade. Here's Riviera. You see Riviera mostly on ball fields, but I have seen a couple of homeowners purchase the seeds and actually put it within their landscape. All right, so let's go to hybrid Bermuda. Compared to those, it's better. Compared to common, you're going to see a better disease resistance, a better drought tolerance. Overall performance is going to be better with the hybrid. Tighter canopies, narrow blades. This grass you can actually get down to 1/4 inch. For those who like, you have someone, I want a putting green in my backyard. There are some hybrids. I mean, it takes way more than just cutting the grass to get a putting green. But if I can get you a surface, I can get you a smooth surface if you have the right equipment. But you won't see that many seed heads, and if you do see the seed heads, on hybrids, they're sterile. On common, they're not. They're viable. They'll put up new growth and everything. Hybrid always requires more intensive maintenance. That's just hybrid. It's going to demand more maintenance. For best look, fertilization is always going to be something you have to do with your hybrids. The maintenance, making sure you aerate, all of those things is going to be critical in a hybrid than it will be in a common. Here are just some of your hybrids. You got Tip 94, Tifton Green, which is a 328, Tifton 10. We got Tifway 419, which most people have now in their landscapes. You might have some people to have a Tif Sport. The newer Bermuda is Tif Grand. Now, when we start talking, I'm gonna get on into this one since we're talking about Bermuda. Bermuda needs 8 hours of sunlight. 8 hours. There are two Bermudas that can go a little less than that. Tif Grand is one of them. Tif Grand, we're gonna say 6 hours of sunlight. Then there's another one called Celebration, which we really don't recommend. But if someone ever asks you about Celebration, tell them it's about 5.5 hours of sunlight. 5.5, 6 hours of sunlight for Celebration.
Which one did you say could do 6?
6 Tif Grand. Tif Grand right now is your Bentley of Bermuda grasses. This one is darker in color. It is the finest blade of all Bermudas. This grass is awesome, but I just don't believe what they're talking about. The best shade, taller, shallow, better than Zoysia. That's a lie. That's just marketing. So please tell anyone you recommend Tif Grand to 6 hours of sunlight. 6 hours or better. Anything less, it will thin. It will start to get leggy, and then from there, it's going to thin. Okay? 6 hours. Yes, sir.
What hybrid Bermudas do they use on golf greens?
On golf greens?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's
I'm gonna go with, it just depends. It's gonna be between Tif 94, Tifton Green 928, Tifton 10. You will even see some Tif Sports. For Tif Sports, they're gonna really have to crank it up to get it like that. But usually it's gonna be these three, and there's some others that perform even better than these. This is really, you can actually put this in the homeowner's yard, but you can't find them. I don't want to discriminate against, on certain golf courses, a lower budget golf course, you'll definitely see those. If I'm on the coast, you're not gonna see Bermuda, you're gonna see, Seashore Paspalum. That's a grass we don't talk about. If I was doing this talk in Augusta, not Augusta, Savannah, then I changed my talk and I add Seashore Paspalum. That's the grass in the Braves Stadium. It's not that we can't grow it, but to grow it, it's crazy. It is crazy just the maintenance on that thing. All right, here's tip 94. This is one of those grasses. If cut at a quarter of an inch, that's not much. But this grass don't mind that type of cut. So that's why it can become that particular golf green for you. That's just what we're talking about with tip 94. Here's tip in green, that's that tip green, that's the 328. Here's your tip in 10. This is like I said, if they can find these grasses, and we'll have to find someone, because you don't hardly see many retailers selling those, but we can find someone with it. That's no problem. But this here, tip weight 419, all day, every day. You'll definitely find this one at the North Georgia Turf, Supersod, Atlanta Sod. What's more on out here? What's our turf companies up here? You all Supersod as well? Yeah, Supersod is 419 and Tiff Green. Those are only two days they said. North Georgia Turf is Tiff Way 419. There's a new one that I have not updated this presentation called Tiff Tough. This grass is it's tough. It is, I'm not ready to, I've had my first training on this grass. Where we at? Did you go on the GS here? I was down in Tip and I've heard about this grass coming out and seen it. Tip Tough, it doesn't look as great as Tip Grand, but the performances on it is incredible. In terms of what it's able to withstand and bounce back from it, it can take so much neglect. But let me first be comfortable before I tell you all to say anything about that. But it's out there. North Georgia Turf is the only company I've seen right now who will start selling it this summer. They will start selling. I saw them at the Wintergreen show last month. They had it out there, and they were promoting it to landscapers, just promoting it. So it's coming. It will be here this summer. So if you ever find yourself in that conversation, it works. It works because it's going to be a marketing frenzy on how this grass comes out. It's a UGA, Clemson, and I want to say Texas A&M. I want to say it's those three that help with the production of this grass. But it is supposed to be a great, a grass you can beat up, it take its lick and keep on ticking. So, but it's not bad. It's not a bad grass at all. Here's Tip Sport. You can actually find this hybrid for homeowners. And then here's your Tip Green. This is the darkest green you're going to ever find for a Bermuda. You remember the picture of the new turf type fescue that we seen, how dark that? That's what this is. And it is very thin when it comes to leaf blades compared to this is 419. So that's what you're dealing with when you start talking about turf. All right, I just put this in here. These are the most used by homeowners. Tip Sport 419 and Tip Grand, the finest of blades. Tip Sport and Tip Grand. Where it's going to always be Tip Grand. When we're talking about recovery, they recover around the same time. Heat tolerance is the same. Drought tolerance is the same. Cold tolerance. I tell you this. Please understand. You all are even colder up this way than we are in Atlanta. When recommending a Bermuda, there is a possibility of frost damage. What was the year we had that ice storm in?
2 years ago.
Was that 2 years ago when there was a crisis? The crisis of what I never caught it in the game. It took me 2 days to get, no, a day and a half to get home. But that year, in that time, that event, in Atlanta alone, I know I had over 30 people that lost their centipede total. I had over 60 people where the Bermuda was really damaged because of that cold. That ice just sitting on that grass. So make sure we, and I know it's a little colder this way. So if we ever recommend this grass, cold tolerance, it has some, but it is susceptible as well. It is susceptible to some cold, especially if it's not. We're not worrying about if we get 2 degrees. That's not what we're worried about. But if we have ice just sitting on the soil, and the soil temperature is already cold, that's even colder. You can really have problems during greenup. It will bounce back, but hey, it's going to take time.
And you should stay off of it during that time.
You definitely need to stay off of it. Kids love it. Kids love it. Hey, it's just having fun. I mean, I'm not going to say that. Let the kids have fun. I mean,
If they roll up a snowman, that'd be good getting it off.
I mean, because it's going to be there. It's going to be there. I mean, what I did, because my neighbors actually lost some of their Bermuda, I took my blower, and I just went for hours, And my neighbor's like, "Are you crazy?" I said, okay. And I was raking. My wife just like, better you than me. I don't care about the turf, I care about the flowers. I'm like, okay. So I'm blowing it, raking it. It was just one of those things. But I had my neighbors to lose their Bermuda patches. They had a lot of damage, and you just have to, take those precautions. So just make sure since you're up this way and it's a little colder this way, just make sure you're mindful of letting people know if they're going to Bermuda. It does, there is some cold tolerance, but there can be some cold damage if we have excessive winters. All right, shade here, as I told you, 10 brand is the best. In terms of fertilizers, you shouldn't give anything over 3 pounds of nitrogen for that complete year. You give it over 3. I know it's gonna look dark in color, but you may cause damage. So let's stay away from 4 pounds of nitrogen. All right, Zoysia. This is, if Bermuda is considered the Mercedes, this is the Bentley of all grass. There is no grass that performs better than Zoysia, that looks better than Zoysia. This is your high-end turf. Please do not make mistakes on this. This costs people. This grass right here costs. And I see Ann shaking her head. She must know what I'm talking about.
So you said if hybrid Bermuda was around $260 a pallet, what's the comparable price for Georgia?
Okay, it depends. You can find some right there comparable, but if you get let's say if you were to get into some of the specialties, like TIF sports and things that you can't find locally, that's going to cost you because where it has to come from. Usually Georgia will not be no more than $30 to $40 more than Bermuda. Last year it was $80. That's because we had a lot of rain in the south that damaged a lot of solid farms. So we're still having a supply and demand issue. So that's the only reason grass is high. 4 years ago, I could get Georgia for $185. I was able to get Bermuda for $120. Just 4 years ago. We had that weather where we just had that constant rain and it flooded the fields, killed all the soft farm grasses. And that's why we're up to that 200 and might be 300 this year. I hope not, but it might be. And that's a pallet. So, but Georgia is that high-end turf. It's adapted to the entire state. This is the best cold tolerant grass out there. You never have an issue with this. This goes all the way up to Chicago. You can actually see it in Minnesota. It does well. As I say, high-end requires dethatching periodically. And when you start talking about dethatching, That should be done every 3 to 4 years. It's not something like aerating that you do every year. Every 3 to 4 years, that should be done. All right. I think all grasses need water when we have extreme drought. Loves to be mowed by a real mower instead of a rotary mower. But if you don't have a real mower, it's okay with a rotary mower. But if you did have a real mower, you will see the difference. But that's any grass. That is any grass. You'll see the difference on any grass. All right. Tolerate shade. Zoysia is the best shade tolerant grass out there now. The best. It used to be St. Augustine, but now it's Zoysia. Only part I don't like about Zoysia, it is in a slow establishment. So here's a good one. You have people that want to do a fall sodding of Zoysia. They want to do it in October, November. If it's slow establishment, the acclimation of a new site to where it came from to where it's going to be even longer. So you have to take that in consideration to the point if we have some type of event by Mother Nature, it can cause some problems. I don't like fall plantings, but if you do it, you do it. For me, I'm all about making sure that grass has the best chance to establish itself, and knowing that Zoysia is very slow, something you got to think about.
So this is showing that you don't want to establish a Zoysia lawn before May.
May.
That is where you.
May is the best time. I go May, June, July, August. You can even do September. It's still warm in September. Still warm. But when you start talking about October, late October, November, you bringing in a lot of dormant grass.
And April too.
Yeah, April is too cold. But you should already be seeing some green, if anything. All right. So here are some varieties, and there are so many more. Myers is a nice medium variety, along with El Toro. Emerald and Xeon are your finer varieties. I can tell you this: if you were to plant Emerald and Xeon next to each other, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart if they were fertilized. You would not be able to tell them apart. Right now, I'm good at identifying some Zoysias, but then there's some I can't. You have some homeowners say, I want to identify this. And the best thing I can tell you is Zoysia. That leads me to this point. Y'all know how to identify the difference between Zoysia and Bermuda? All right. So let's just say this was a blade of grass. If someone was to bring in some grass to you, take a blade, put it in your hand, and do this. If it flops, just flops and bends, does not give any resistance, that's Bermuda. If it stays erect as like a needle pointing, that's Zoysia. Now, outside of this here, if you don't see any seed heads, this will be the way to go. But of course, we can always go seed heads, but a lot of times you don't get seeds. So this would be the best way to go. All right, so when we start talking about leaf textures, you got Xeon, Emerald, Myers, Zenith, Jammer, El Toro. People will say, I want something wide. I want something narrow. This one, people love the variance in terms of blades. They love because they can go either from narrow to wide. And it's just across the board. That's why Bermuda's trying to get into that family as well, because Zoysias, you can go from fine blades to wide blades, and it all looks the same. It still performs well.
So the finest is on the left.
See, that's the finest. But I tell you, you wouldn't be able to tell if both of those in the field fertilized, you wouldn't be able to tell. You wouldn't. I can tell you Xeon or Emerald, but I couldn't tell you which one. It's either one. It's one of the two. Here's El Toro, just an idea of what it looks like. And all of them are medium blades, except for Xeon and Emerald. Emerald. The difference is, if you're ever telling people, if someone wants to purchase any Zoysia grass, please tell them to get it certified. Make sure it's certified. Had a representative over, again, in Buckhead, did their yard. For some reason, the grass wouldn't green up. It's soil, but it wouldn't green up. Then they planted it in May of the previous year, came around to March, nothing happened. It didn't start greening up until July. So the rep, he's like, well, we need to figure out. I said, well, I'm just here to help. Let's get your landscaper out here and let's go from there. So I said, let's see what it does next year, because after July, it performed well. Next year did the same thing. It's like, what do y'all get this grass from? They got it from a local retailer, but then what we found out later, that retailer received the grass from Alabama. Nothing against Alabama's grass, because you have some good sod farmers there. But the thing was, it wasn't certified. It was supposed to be Myers, so we had to do a DNA test on it. Cost us about $1,000, cost them about $1,000 to do. Come to find out it's Myers, but it's not Myers. And from then on, they said anything Zoysia, please, go with certification. That way you're ensuring you have the right grass and what it's supposed to do. And it functions just like the grass is supposed to function. So that's just what we're talking about. Here's Jammer. This is a little wider. Now this one, I can't remember who's selling El Toro. One says North Georgia Turf. Jammer is another one. This is a newer one. You're seeing a lot of people buying this particular grass. I'm gonna almost say Jammer is the widest to me. Almost. If you cut it low, its blade, it flattens out and it's like it's real wide. If you cut it real low. Zenith is a good one. This is super sod. Zenith, you'll also get, when super sod runs out of Zenith, they'll give you companion or composite. These three grasses look identical. They look identical. So that's what you're working with that. This is Palisades. Here's Myers. I think I have one more. No, two more. Here's Emerald. This one we're getting into the finer blades. And then here's Zia. So you're seeing a lot of people putting this in the yard. They think you don't have to use the water, but like I said, less surface, less tomatoes, so you don't have to worry about transpiration, but it still needs its water. That's Zia. Now, you're going to get a lot of people say, look, I have zoysia, I need to fill in some spots with seeds. Is it possible? It is possible. It is possible, but please please explain to them what this is. If I have emerald zoysia, if I have Jammer, Palisades, if I have anything outside of Zenith zoysia, I might not want to do that. All seeds are Zenith zoysia seeds. There are no other seeds. They're going to be Zenith zoysia seeds. So if I have emerald and I come out and put this in there, I got two different grasses, and it's going to look different. Okay?
I have a question.
Sure.
You're saying Zenith?
Zenith.
So what does that match up? Is there a Zenith zoysia right there?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
It's a bigger blade.
It's a medium wide, yes, medium to, I still say medium to wide.
Where you're seaming it into a much finer.
Then you're gonna have problems. You're definitely gonna have problems. But then, because it's not as dark, if you were to put this with El Toro, you're gonna see the difference too. El Toro is a little dark in color. Same with the blade, but dark in color. So that can become a problem.
So the moral of that story is if you're gonna fix it,
Make sure you have
if you're gonna fix a zoysia lawn, if it's not zinc, probably need to sod it, plug it, or spray it.
Yes, if it's not Zenith, companion, or composite, they are very, it's hard to tell those apart. So if it's not those, I don't know if I would recommend that. I would let them know and let them make that choice. All right, centipede. We call this the dead man's grass. Does not want you to do anything. Don't touch me. Just cut me, give me some water, don't over fertilize me, I'm good. You'll be, a lot of people will buy this grass just because of those characteristics. It does not want you to do much to it. Now, we used to tell people that if you have a centipede grass, you shouldn't plant it above Atlanta. Now you have Tiflet out of Blairsville, Georgia. It goes further. This one actually goes into Tennessee. This is the grass we're telling a lot of folks that lost their grass 2 years ago, if they want to go back to a centipede Tiflet because of the cold tolerance. Okay? This will have a better cold tolerance because where it was established and originated. So that's the way to go. Understand this, it's always going to be light green in color. It's not going to be dark green in color. Regardless how much iron they put on it, regardless how much nitrogen they throw at it, it's always going to be light green. That's what it is. It's a low maintenance, tolerates low fertility, light shade, and I'll get into the shade requirements later. As far as North Atlanta, that's the old, that's common centipede. But typically, like I said, can go all the way up to Tennessee. If you don't do what you're supposed to do with this grass, it will go through this thing called centipede decline. Once it goes through centipede decline, there is no stopping. It's like timber. It's coming down, regardless. You can put as many cables as whatever you want to put the hole in. It's coming, and there's nothing you can do to change it. So just make sure if they have centipede, make sure they do right by it. Make sure they stick to what that grass is supposed to have. If usually it's a pound of nitrogen, make sure they cut that in half. Make sure they give it at the beginning and at the end. Never put a true pound of nitrogen on this grass at one time. That's just too much. Even though it requires a pound a year, but you need to split that pound up. Do a half a pound in May, the last half a pound in August. That's how I would do centipede. St. Augustine, almost a little similar, right? Think you'll be able to identify those? How?
White boy, whiter boy.
So I'm glad you said that. What did you say?
Centipede head, right?
No, they have, both of them have stones. What?
Here.
All right, when you start talking about centipede and St. Augustine, depending on what you're going with, if you go with the Tiflet, and if you go with the Mercedes, in terms of St. Augustine, almost identical. You can go seeds, but then even that can get tricky, especially if they cut it. The best way to tell these two apart, well, let me first do this. Large flattened blades, broad coarse leaves, bluish green in color, adapted to the southern half of Georgia. Like I said, we do have better grasses now. Very susceptible to winter kill. Yes, it is. But so is centipede. Susceptible to chinch bugs, where centipede is susceptible to spittle bugs. Most, I need to change this side. Shade tolerant, the second best shade tolerant grass. Now, to identify between centipede and St. Augustine, in terms of arrangements, and we're talking about stolons, above ground runners, blade arrangement on centipede will be alternate. Blade arrangement on St. Augustine will be opposite. We got that? All right, on the stolon, the above ground run. You know how you have opposite and alternate on shrubbery and things like that? Same thing on the blades. On the stolon, the blades on centipede are going to be alternate. But on St. Augustine, it's going to be opposite. That's going to be the best way to identify. But then another way that you can identify. The tips. The tips of your centipede are going to be pointed, where on the St. Augustine, it's going to be rounded. It's going to be more low. Okay? We'll have rounded, some people say boat-like, but pointed and low in terms of tips. So that's going to be the best way to identify. All right, so when we start talking about St. Augustine varieties, you only have 3 that we're going to recommend. The first one we dealt with is palmetto. And I can tell you right here, if you're from Clemson, Clemson was very proud of palmetto. So then North Carolina said, no, not just yet. We're gonna provide something that's even better. Raleigh came out, was really better than this in terms of cold tolerance, shade tolerance. I mean, even from a chinch bug standpoint, Super Salt came out with Mercedes. But they're right there on the same line in terms of cold tolerance. It is a better cold tolerance with these 3, but it's not something that will, if it goes beyond, I would say at least maybe 20 to 30 days where we have ice or snow on the grass, you're going to see some damage. You're definitely going to see some damage. So that's definitely something to worry about. Mercedes is one coming straight out of Super Salt. If you're ever looking for St. Augustine, that's going to be where you get that one from. Raleigh, I won't say you can get it from North Georgia.
But aren't we too far north for St. Augustine?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. When Johns Creek, this was in the early 2000s, there's this guy in Johns Creek. How far are you off from Johns Creek?
10 miles.
10 miles.
Yeah.
I convinced this guy, he's from, both of us from Florida, because that's all we do in Florida, St. Augustine. I said, don't do it. And this was before Mercedes came out. I was like, that's not something we recommend. So that had to be like 2002, 2006 came. I was getting ready to come, no, 2007. He called, his name is Jason White. He said, Lynnwood, come on up. And I said, okay, I'm gonna come on up. And he gonna have it. It looks great. It looks great. Even from the time that we were recommending it, even in Atlanta, I know several people that had it, and it looked great. But there are chances. Some people are willing to take that chance. All we can do is give them information. That's all we can do. It has some code issues. Just be mindful of that. That's all we can say. So, go from there. So here's what Mercedes look like, and here's the low type leaves. Leaf blades. That's what we're talking about. It's hard to tell that on the Raleigh when it's cut, but they don't look too much different. It's not a great picture of palmetto, but they look very similar, very wide blade, and that's why people like it, because of the width of the blade. Bahia grass, thank you, Louise.
Thank these 2 ladies.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Bahia grass, this is this is not the city grass. When you put Bahia grass in the landscape, it does not look great. I don't care what you do to it. But it has its purpose. Not to downplay a rural setting to an urban setting. That's not what I'm here to do. But people in the rural settings love this grass because it can take so much neglect. They don't have to put all that time into it. It bounces back, keep moving. When it comes from a livestock standpoint, the livestock can feed off of it bounces back, like Bermuda. So it has its purpose. It's just not one that really serves one in the metro area. It looks almost like centipede. The best way to tell this is the one I was telling you that also has the reddish sheaths on it as well. That's this one. Another way to tell if you ever see that white, that's Bahia grass. All day, every day. That's the seed heads. But DOT loves it. I mean, and I understand why, because it takes that whooping, and it's no problem for them. They don't have to fertilize, they don't have to water, and it always bounces back. You tell me what homeowner doesn't want the grass to do the same thing? You know, so when people, and I've had people ask me, I want to put this grass because, well, they don't say that. Here's what they say. What is the grass on the side of the road? And I'm like, where at? And they're like, yeah, I mean, I see this guy pass by this grass all the time. Nothing. It's green. What is it? I said, well, it's a DOT special. And it's going to be either carpet grass or it's going to be behavior grass. I said, then I tell them, if you see the wide seed heads, that's going to be your behavior grass. I say carpet grass will look, the seed heads will look almost like crabgrass. So, and people go find this grass, you know, so like I said, some people will use it. It's not the best in terms of cutting. It's a real low density. It's not a tight canopy. So it's just one of those type of grasses, but people will use it. Carpet grass is another one. This one loves sandy soils, acid soils, and you know we have acid soils. We don't have sandy acid soils, but what did the first say? Low fertility, neglected soils. This grass will do well, and I think that's why people are okay with using it. All right, how you identify the purple seeds right here, but that looks almost like crabgrass. So, but people like this grass. People like this. This one, you can almost, this one in love grass. Love grass doesn't look like this, but you'll see more and more people, especially around playgrounds. And I don't know why. I'm starting to see, you know, and maybe it's because of the traffic. If they don't want to put down the most, they'll look at love grass, they'll look at carpet grass. I haven't had anyone look at behavior grass as an option.
Clumpy.
It is
Like
clumpy.
you see in a field.
Yes, it is clumpy. But if you see it, then what? And you can actually buy this in solid. So can, like I said, because golf courses use it for the rough. So, all right, so let's talk about establishment. We're going to go from fast to slow. For cool season, ryegrass is the strongest. You can actually get a rye seed to germinate within 5 to 7 days. Fescue is going to be anywhere from 6 to 10, depending on soil preparation. Bermuda seeds. Well, I ain't going to get into the seeds. But in terms of establishment, Bermuda is the fastest. St. Augustine, Centipede, as I already mentioned before, Zoysia is going to be very slow. All right, leaf texture. We already know this. We're talking about wide to fine. Fescue is going to be the widest of those, or the rest of the cool season. Carpet grass, then St. Augustine, Bahia, Centipede, Zoysia, and Bermuda should be right there at the same. Well, I need to change that. Because when I did, I need to change that. Zoysia should be at the bottom because of jam. Zoysia should be at the bottom, so I need to change that. Shoot density, talking about real tight canopies, Zoysia and Bermuda, they can be 1A, 1B, whichever way you want to do it. Then you're going to have St. Augustine and Centipede, and St. Augustine is only there because of Mercedes. Palmetto and Raleigh is a little wider, so you're not going to have that much of a good density on it, but it's only there because of Mercedes. Yes, sir.
We didn't talk about bent grass much. It's not really good here, is it?
No. But you can, I've seen it used, but it's always been in an athletic type setting.
Way a lot further north.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, it's one we really don't really get into.
I know most of the golf greens that were bent grass.
Yeah.
Changed.
Mm-hmm. All right, cold tolerance, as I said, Zoysia, then Bermuda, Centipede, St. Augustine. When you go from Bent, Kentucky, fine, tall fescue comes right there. Heat tolerance, Zoysia and Bermuda are right there. I would really say Bermuda is probably the best heat tolerant grass out there. I don't think anything is above Bermuda right now. Bermuda is the best heat tolerant grass out there. In terms of the cool season, it will be festive. As I said, the other grasses will thin out even quicker. That's why I don't understand how that Kentucky bluegrass will work, and it would tend to thin out before the festival. Drought tolerance, Bermuda is very persistent. You don't have to give Bermuda water. I've seen 3 to 4 weeks. But just assume, and it's all dull, looking like it's dead. But when it does get that water, you're talking about recovery, it recovers quicker than any other grasses. Most grasses will probably be dead and don't recover. Not that we're telling people you don't have to water it, but it can go without water for a while. Shade tolerance, don't even worry about this. I'm about to give you my next slide. But zoysia is the best in shade tolerance. If you can take one and pass it around, we'll discuss this next slide. Light tolerance, sunlight requirements. Now, when we start talking about sunlight requirements, you have to talk about sunlight and not daylight. So when do you think sunlight comes into play? What time of day? About 10 o'clock. About 10 o'clock. Some people try to push to 9. I said, no, about 10 o'clock. So we're talking about 10 o'clock moving forward. So if we're looking at tall fescue, what are we saying? 6 hours. Even the new turf types, 6 hours. They have to figure it out because they're transitions. You might have sunlight at one point, then you fall into shade, then you might come back into sun. Cataloging that sunlight is very important to establishing and making sure that you can support this grass. Bermudas, 8 hours. Tiff Grant, 6. I was telling you earlier, Celebration, 5.5. St. Augustine, all of them can get away with 5.5 hours of sunlight. Centipede, 6 hours. Now here come our zoysias. Zoysias, you got your Myers, Emerald, El Toro, you can go down to 4, but most of them are 4.5 to 5 hours of sunlight. I always tell people, anything that says 5.5 to something else, stick to the latter. Don't go 5.5 or 4.5, let's just say 5. We're going to ensure you get what it is you're looking for. If they say they have 4.5 hours, this get 4.5 hours, but are they telling the truth in that? Do they really know?
Isn't there a website that you can look at your property at different times of the year and the way the pattern that the sun moves?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of the website. I don't know the name of the website.
But there is something.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Would it be on that weather?
GeorgiaWeather.net. I don't know if it's on GeorgiaWeather.net. It might. There's so much on GeorgiaWeather.net. Have y'all used GeorgiaWeather.net?
Yeah.
GeorgiaWeather.net is a great site. I use it like most people try to. I know in the weeds class, I teach weeds as well, but I don't go by them things.
Solar radiation.
So that's
not
really it. The one I always go by GeorgiaWeather.net because I'm looking at soil temperatures. That's what I'm looking at, and that's how I figure out when to put down that pre-emergence or when to jump to something else. So, but as you can see, the zoysias from Zenith all the way to Meyer, 4.5 to 5 hours. So this is what you're looking at in terms of people ask you, well, I have 6 hours of sunlight. Now we have options to give them. We know what we can give them and go from there. Keep that with you because that's not something any other extension office have, but no, I'm just saying, take it with you. If you're in the office, I take the turf part a little more serious than everybody else. But everybody else just be looking like, oh, okay. Yeah, we can use that. I guess it's just like all the turf classes. But 3 phases of establishment, you gotta have soil preparation, you gotta have the planting, then we're gonna talk about maintenance. When we start talking about soil preparation, I think this is where the problem comes into play. No one truly plans. Once you figure out how much sunlight you got, a lot of people don't go into the true soil preparation. Some people will kill the weeds and plant on top of it. Kill whatever's there and then plant on top of it. Then others will actually till it leave what's there as if we're not farmers, we're not rolling the crop in the soil and then they're plant on top of that. That is a recipe for disaster. So when you start talking about soil preparation, the first thing I'll tell anyone before they dig up anything outside of knowing we have the sunlight is taking a soil test. Take a soil test first, because you don't want to have to till it up one time and then have to come back and incorporate something, and that's you can knock one thing, everything out in one day of tilling. You can throw your lime out there, till it deeper into the soil, because it's harder for lime to get established in the soil profile when you have an established site. Or when you lay the sod on top of it, it's sitting on top of the soil, not on the soil. On top of the grass and not the soil. So, it's best to do it that way. So from the soil test, then you go into your till. From there, if you're tilling, most tillers are not going to get no further than 2 to 3 inches into the soil profile unless you have a great soil. And if you do, thank you, God bless you, and that's great. But someone dealing with clay soils, they probably, it'll kick back. They're not going to get down. I tilled one of my master gardeners. He said, "Well, can you help me do my yard?" I said, "Henry, I usually don't do this, but you're one of my favorites. You are, hey, Henry, I love him. Henry and I went out there. I said, "What did you do?" He said, "No, I tilled it. I get out there and understand, he tilled it, but he was tilling Bermuda. When you till in Bermuda, you're not really getting it up. So I had to come back just the whole day and just till it. I was supposed to be done with this 100, it was only 1,000 square feet, which is simple. I was supposed to be done with that in 5-6 hours tops. It took me 2 days. 2 days. Because if you don't do everything in terms of tilling, making sure you get down deep as possible, and he's like, "Well, I just went across." I said, "No, you have to lay on that machine to get down." Yeah, Henry about $1.70, so I'm like, I understand here. But it's a lot into tilling. Some people think all they have to do is just knock the top inch off. That's tilling. If it's Bermuda, you have just left all of those rhizomes in the soil, which will come back. Regardless if you round up it or not, they will come back for some reason. So when you're tilling, make sure you're going at least 3 inches. And make sure you express that to them. Get as deep as you can. That's going to require going over more than 2-3 times. You really have to get down. And then once you remove all the debris and all the dead matter, you got to come back. If you have to establish the ground, if you have to add topsoil, if you have to add lime, you can go ahead and till that stuff in there. I tell you right now, I would tell anyone, I would rather till the lime in than just broadcast it on the top. Because I'm ensuring that pH is going to be corrected further down into that soil profile. If you don't, it's not going to go that far down into the soil profile. And especially, I need those roots to be as deep. So that's why you want to do it. Fertilize lime, and that's going to be according to the soil report. That's soil preparation. Simple, it is, but it's going to cost more. It's hard. So when we start talking about planting, we know we can do seeding. That's the most common, inexpensive. Then you're going to go sodding. That's going to be the most expensive. Now, in your book, and I told Marco, I told the people, when you start talking from a turf perspective, we don't talk spraying and stolonizing as something for homeowners. But in the book, it does. That's not true. That's strictly athletic ball fields. Because there's a certain machine. I stolonize a field for research. And that's like getting a knife spade, kicking down and no, that's not for a home. That's not for a home. If anything, you'll take these, you'll do plugging, sodding, and seeding. Plugging are smaller squares. and you just go from there. You put them in a smaller dimension where the rhizomes and stolons can spread. But sprigging and stolonizing, that's strictly athletic ball. Seeding, I'll tell you this. If you're seeding, make sure the bag is certified. Tell them the bag must be certified. It's going to have, if it's not certified, you can have more weeds. So make sure you definitely you're using certified seeds. I usually tell people, and sometimes that's hard. No, I'm not going to go into that. I'll wait for that. All right. When we start talking about seeding rates, if you're talking about fescue, 5 to 8 pounds per thousand. Ryegrass is 5 to 10. You have common Bermuda, which can come in whole and unwhole, 1 to 2 pounds for whole, 3 to 5 for unwhole, 4 to a half an inch for centipede. Now, when we start talking about seeding, I tell people we like to call it the right angle method. And I tell people not only seeding, this is if you're using anything you're broadcasting out, fertilization, insecticides, whatever, herbicides, use the right angle method. The right angle method is simply this. You're going to divide your, whatever it is, if it's seeds, fertilizer, into 2 parts, 2 equal parts. You'll start, you'll walk it. When you get ready to turn, you should be 4 feet from that first line, 4 feet away. And you walk it until you finish the entire property. And if you so happen to end here, now we're going to start here with the other part we divided, and we're going to start it again. Doing our same 4 feet, coming in, going around. Uniform coverage. That's how you're going to ensure you have uniform coverage. The right angle method. This is the only method we're going to tell people. The only method we're going to tell people to use when seeding, putting down a herbicide or a pest or any pesticides with a broadcast spray. That method is key and critical, especially when you're seeding, when you're putting down anything, because you don't want one area to be green and the other area, some areas aren't. So that's how you want to look at that. I always tell people, also, if you get into other pesticides and you're not great at calibration, if you're using a stock spreader, not stock spotter, that way they tell you the letter, the number is supposed to be on, you put it on that number and that's it. So no one overdo it or under, so they can get the bang for their buck. Types of seeds, when we're talking about hull seeds, I don't know if you all knew what that was. Hull seeds are when you have a seed that is mechanically being modified, because what happens, they take a part of the husk off the seed. They take that off the seed to make the germination process, the germination rate speed up. You can only use whole seeds, or you can use both of them. But if I had to use a seed in the summertime, it's going to be a whole seed, because I know I can get it to germinate quickly. I need to get that out of my hand. I know it will germinate quickly, and I will get a stand of grass up as soon as possible. Now, let's say you have someone who wants to put down Bermuda seeds in, let's say, September, October. Can they do that based on your chart? No. They can if they go with unwhole. Because what happens here, these seeds have been attached, and the entire husk coat is still attached to it. A lot of times, someone will call it a naked seed, but it's still a whole seed. Most people would never just have an unwhole seed. What they'll have is a coated and unwhole seed. The coated is actually a polymer that has an insecticide, a fungicide, and a fertilizer wrapped up into that coat. That way, when they put that seed out there, one, it's protected through the harsh weather. Animals won't feed on it. which is another, now, I don't know, you might not want people to, especially if you get birds and things like that, it's not a great thing when you use those type seeds. But this allows this grass to establish when the time is right. So if you find yourself you want to put seeds down and you missed your chance, you can put a seed down, but make sure it's an unhulled seed. That a seed that will germinate when the time is right, but is allowed to sit in dormancy until then. Nothing on that seed coat has been damaged. And if they added a coat to it, it's even better. A lot of times when you use unhulled seeds, you need to come with a ryegrass to protect those seeds. Keep those seeds from moving off being run off by water or something like that. Usually people will come with a ryegrass and they will interseed for both of those. Okay? All right, seed in Bermuda, we already talked about making sure everything is certified. I told you why you want to go with a whole seed for faster germination in late fall. This is something we just talked about. Late fall, winter, that's when you want to go with a whole seed. So it's just helping you. Now, when you start talking about seeding, once seeding and fertilizing is done, make sure you firm it up. So usually when you're fertilizing or when you're seeding, the first thing you should do, you put the seed down, you actually should put the fertilizer down, and then you should roll it. Once you roll it, you don't always have to roll it, you can actually roll it, but rolling it makes sure the seed stays in contact with the soil. That's basically what rolling is doing. All right. From there, you irrigate once a day for 2 weeks. Once those blades get up, you shouldn't cut it until if your desired height is 1 inch, you should allow that grass to go to 2 inches, and then you cut it back to that inch. That's how it should go. Vegetation, from a vegetative standpoint with warm seasons, your time frame is going to be anywhere between May through, I'll give you until September, even just depending on what we are in temperature with October. That will come down to soil temperature. Usually it's September, especially if you want to put your last fertilization down. All warm season grasses should be fertilized by the last fertilization of the year is by September 1. Please remember that date. Do not allow anyone to go past September 1 to fertilize that grass. So when we start talking about maintenance, we always look at fertilization, pre-emergence, which I won't talk about since you all already talked about in your weeds, irrigation, mowing, and cultivation. So when you start talking about fertilization, you have to look at the turf requirements. You got to see what's in the soil, the maintenance practice from that, and then you got to look at the desired appearance. From there, people always buy fertilization based off the easiness of handling, the price, but I'm going to tell you the number one thing is availability. A lot of times when people go, you don't have many options. And especially if they get a soil test from UGA with sometimes strictly rural type results, 15-0-15, what can I find now? So they'll come in and we'll try to find something a little more accommodating to that particular recommendation. So when you start talking about warm season grasses, just making sure you apply at the right time. When you start talking about a spring fertilization, you should come up with a complete fertilizer. A complete fertilizer is something like a 10-10-10. It can be a 16-4-8, 12-4-8, but it's a complete. It's going to have a representation in all 3 macro nutrients, N, P, and K. Might not be the same ratio, but it's getting all of those nutrients in place. When we start talking about that, when do you put out a fertilizer? Usually we tell people when soil temperatures are above 65 degrees. Or you can just go by your calendars. Your calendars will tell you everything, but if you didn't have a calendar, 65 degrees is fine. That's when you're gonna have active root growth. A fall application should be done about 6 weeks before average frost, but I just told you September 1 for warm season grasses. September, October, and November will be great for fescue. April is the last day for fescue. I went through all of this that quick. All right, Most farm seasons require 1 to 5 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. Please divide that up. Like I said, Bermuda should get no more than 3 to 4. Georgia is the same thing, 2 to 3. Centipede, 1. St. Augustine, 2 to 3. So you can divide that up. You can start your first fertilization should take place in May. The next one you can go June, but I wouldn't. I'll probably take the next one in August.
Ask a question.
Sure.
Assuming the yard guys that are doing the lawns, the others.
Watch it.
That's what I'm asking. Is that something that would be?
They know it, but
You have to ask them what they're putting down
I
on
know
each
that,
application.
But I mean, when they come, you can't, I know you can't assume anything, but.
ooh, yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah.
No, you can assume they're not doing anything.
Oh, I thought you say you can sue. Oh, no, no.
Assume.
Sue.
That comes after that.
But here's, they know, but, and I'm not supposed to say this because I help them, but when it comes down to money, they're trying to maximize.
Yeah.
So, like, you see where it says 1 to 5 pounds? Let's say it's time to put out that for review. So what they'll do, because it's best for them to charge you for every visit, so they'll do a half a pound this time, a half a pound that time, half a pound. And they're just fertilizing the whole farm. You're still getting the same results or the same amount, but they're charging you every time they come out. When they could have easily just put down 1 to 2 pounds down and come back a little later and put 1 to 2 pounds again.
But they might, if I asked them to do that separate like that, or they might go say, no, that's not what we do. And, I mean, because they're in charge of their lawn.
Stop. Stop. Say that one more time.
I'm not gonna say it.
I want you to say it. I want you to say it. Say that one more time.
Which one?
The last part. If they're not going to, say that, what you said?
If they're not.
What I was gonna ask, okay, the guy comes out May 1st, and he's putting the fertilizer out. And I asked him, when are you gonna come back to put the rest of the fertilizer? He said, well, I'll be back in June, July, August, and September. I'm like, well, you don't really have to do that, you can just come twice. And he's gonna look at me and go, you just got your master garden classes, didn't you?
Why you kidding? No. And if you were to tell any landscaper what you want, you make sure they do it. But you make sure they put down the recommendations that is needed to support that practice or whatever it is they're doing. So if you want them to come out twice, oh, they'll tell you that's not the best thing to do. And a lot of people will fall into that. Because when you don't know, I can play on your intelligence all day. Not that they're doing anything wrong, because they're not. But what they're doing, they're maximizing income. That's it. Yeah, man. Because the more I come out, the more I can charge you. I can't charge you if I'm not on your property. You know, that's why we teach people, hey, sometimes do it yourself. But when you can't do it yourself, when you know better, you make people do that. And that's what we give people, that information, so others who taking care of their property will do that, or have to face the consequences. That's basically it. So you are the boss. You say, this is how much you put out. This is how you should approach it. How many pounds of nitrogen do you put out each time you work? Ask them that. Let me get the boss. Let me get the boss. That's what they're gonna say. So we put out, I want you to put out a pound. So when you come out this time and this time, we're not gonna do that. Because you can easily say, well, if I'm not watering it, why would I fertilize it? You can easily, dispute whatever it is they want to go. But they're going to always tie in this. Well, I got to put down insecticide. It's always something. But it's what you want. Line. It's always something. That's why I say, do your own soil test so you know. Or if they're doing a soil test, let me see the results. They're not obligated. Yeah. But just say, I want to see everything, be more involved. I'm not going to say the company's name because I've been in court 3 times with them. Take advantage of this blind man. I was so mad. Boy, I would never give them business and they are big company, I would never bad talk them, but I would never refer anyone to them because I didn't get one person because of this handicap. They took advantage, they took thousands from that. So you're the boss. You're the boss. Well, yeah, that bothers me still. Anyway. Sure, that's great. Leave it. What is son is set up real easy to set up. But, you know, some of this